All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. On yesterday's episode, it was obviously nothing but Gabe Landeskog, understandably so, and we didn't get to Chris MacFarland, who had his own press conference right after the Gabe Landeskog press conference ended. And he had a lot of interesting things to say and also a lot of interesting things that he didn't say. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and subscribe to our subtext. Link to that, it's in the show notes below. And when you subscribe, you can talk to Kyle and I one-on-one. There you go. Do it now. A lot of fun. All right, sir. So on today's episode, we will get to the Andrew Cogliano season grade. There's one letter associated with this grade, and it's interesting. We'll get to that a little bit later. But what we want to start with today is a little bit more on the Gabe Landeskog issue and situation, more specifically when it comes to Chris MacFarland, because he did have his own press conference right after Gabe's ended, and obviously took a lot of questions, started with a lot of Landeskog questions, and then went into other areas. And we'll do the same thing. We'll start with the Landeskog part, and then the other parts of it that he answered questions and others he did not, namely the Val Nichushkin thing. But it just seems like the Avalanche are in the same spot with Gabe and just giving him as much time and letting him make the decisions here. And obviously talking to the Avalanche medical team and things like that. But it just seems like they are putting this in his hands. And this was the kind of like the last thing that they could really come to. They could have done this earlier, but they put it off till now. And you just got the sense of listening to Chris MacFarland of what Gabe Landeskog means to this franchise. And they're not just going to rush this, even though they want him back like tomorrow. And nobody wants your captain to be out for 2 full seasons. Yeah. They're still going to let him go about this accordingly and the best that they can do. Really, that's all they really can do.
Yeah, and you kind of understand, and we've kind of joked around about it for a while, that when all's said and done for Landeskog, he's going to be in management in some place in Denver, because he's got that kind of power and respect and sway and swagger and knowledge when it comes to how you handle a team. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those, he's been the captain for quite some time now. And if he needs the time, you give the captain the time.
Yeah.
And at time of recording, he's already gone through the successful cartilage transplant. And we are now on the road to recovery part 8.
the healing starts now, basically, right? And then the last thing I want to mention with the Landeskog thing is you saw this going around social media, and we even touched on it this past season, more when we knew he wasn't going to come back, and when he made the announcement, and it was floated out there, someone put the C on for the postseason, and nobody really thought that was going to happen. Could it though? Could it, for this, knowing that he is going to be out for a full season, and it's not mandatory to have a captain, right? Yeah. There's a lot of teams that don't have captains, have a lot of alternates. But knowing that right now he's going to be out for a full season, does someone hold that title just for the one season that he's out, and then obviously it goes back to him when he comes back? Or do the Avs just say, no, that's our captain, and we don't need to have somebody just wear that letter because it's just a placeholder. We know who the real captain of the team is as long as he's playing, or not playing, but you know what I mean, like part of the team. I could see it going either direction, but I still lean towards not likely, if you ask me.
You know, if there wasn't another year of waiting on Landeskog coming back, I know that was should we put the C on somebody in the playoffs narrative because we needed, just somebody to rally around in the playoffs, but you knew Landy was coming back next year. Well, that's not the case. I honestly have kind of changed my tune on this a little bit, and I think this would be wise to slap that C on Nathan MacKinnon, knowing if, I'm not saying when, it's if, because I said when last year, and it's turned into if Landeskog comes back, he can get his captaincy back.
Oh, sure.
But one of the things we talked about, all the everydayers that listened all season long, the lack of leadership was very noticeable. And you need, even though it's just a letter on a jersey, you need a leader.
I wouldn't be against it. I'll say that. I don't think they do it, but I could see either side of the argument, and that is a very good point. A lot of people were saying like they didn't have that leadership ability in Gabe Landeskog, and sometimes when someone just has that letter on their jersey, and Nathan MacKinnon commands respect, but you put it on him just for one season, and it's just even more so.
Yeah.
So I could see them. I could see it happening, honestly, but I just don't feel like they will, because I think they'll have the mindset of like, we don't need it. We know who our other captains are on this team, and they can step up. They don't necessarily need to wear that letter to play that role. It's kind of the way that I feel like they're going to phrase it. But I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with like, hey, that'd be a good rallying cry for this team. And then more money out of our pockets because we're going to have to get those limited edition Nathan MacKinnon captain's jerseys, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I kind of want to hear what people have to say on that, because we're not saying Gabe Landeskog is no longer the captain of this team, but I think Kyle makes a very good point. At least for that 1 year, it's a rally. You can rally around that, right? So, and I don't think Gabe Landeskog would be against it either, knowing when he comes back, he's back to his normal position.
Yeah.
So, we'll get into Chris MacFarland and kind of like the other things that he mentioned. And obviously he was asked about what this does for the Avs and Landeskog, $7 million that will be freed up. And he's not going to get into specifics right now, because they're in like the gathering information phase of free agents and draft picks and stuff like that. So they don't have their plan in place. Obviously this Landeskog thing just happened, so it's not like you know exactly what you're going to do, right? Yeah. So you got to plan all this stuff out. But I will say this. I know a lot of people are not happy with how Chris MacFarland handled the draft, or the trade deadline last year. We understood, we kind of predicted it a month ahead of time that they were going to be quiet, and you could understand why. But what happens is when it doesn't work out, when the season doesn't go the way that you want it to go, then everybody's got, it's the Monday morning quarterbacks, and hindsight is 2020, and you should have done more.
Yeah.
Fine. If you want to have that perspective on things, that's fine. I'm not going to come down too hard on Chris MacFarland for the way he handled the trade deadline, but I know there's a lot of people that feel like he should have done more. Having said that, and the way that the season ended, now you got the Gabe Landeskog issue. I do feel like he needs to have a good offseason. And kind of that section of people who feel that way, that he had a poor trade deadline, maybe alleviate them, and they can say like, okay, well, he didn't do so. I don't feel like he did so well at the trade deadline, but he turned it around, and we brought some good pieces in now. I kind of feel like he does need to he's got to do this the right way and get the right guys, because we all know this is going to be a different looking team heading into next season, and how he navigates this, I think he'll get those people that, again, didn't like his trade deadline, will kind of get in line and get behind him and support him like they always did with Joe Sakic in that position.
And, I think Chris MacFarland has almost an impossible job this offseason because, Chris, you just mentioned it. You said guys, plural. Looking right now at Cap Friendly, of the 13 forwards that the Avalanche have, 8 contracts are up.
Mm-hmm.
That is 1 year. 1 year left on those deals. That's $7 million. You can't. I know it's wonderful to go out there and make that. We need to get insert superstar here with long resume. We have to put a team together, and Chris MacFarland has to put a team back together.
Sure.
For this next season. And we were all playing all the small things and having parades and wonderful everything when we won the Central. And then we went back to doom and gloom when we got knocked out of the playoffs. You can't have it both ways. Let Chris MacFarland do what he's doing. Hey, Joe Stakic still, even though he's not in that role, he's still in the
involved.
management picture.
Very
he's
much
still
so.
in there. So it's not completely on MacFarland, but it's an extremely tough job for the Avalanche going into this offseason, putting a team together with a limited amount of money and trying to make it work when maybe a couple of future Avalanche players are still playing in the playoffs currently.
Yeah. And the thing that I want to see is when he makes a deal, signs a free agent, brings somebody in, how do we feel in that moment?
Yeah.
Not at the end of the year when we can reassess, was that a good move or not? Because it's two separate things. Like we all, if he makes moves, and at that point in time when we get the news that they signed this guy, how do we feel? Are we happy about it or are we not happy about it? That's where I want to see, what he can do.
Yeah.
Because this is what we do. Like, I just said with the trade deadline, it didn't work out. Then all those people are like, oh, I told you it didn't work out. I told you it wasn't going to work out. Well, yeah, you can say that now. But with the trade deadline, and especially for this offseason, who he brings in, I want to be happy about. I want to go into this season being happy about the moves that he's made. And then at the end of the season, we can reassess it.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like he's got to have that. He's got to make some good, sound, solid moves for this team that make us feel good in the moment, and then let the season play out as it will.
And see, that's why I said that, because I'm afraid with all the contracts that he's got to get back together for the forward position and like 2 or 3 in the defensive spot, you're going to see more of those like Abe Kubel, Nico Sturm, like putting pieces together, not the piece that makes your Colorado Avalanche. It's going to be a lot of little role players to comprise a roster. And I worry that the first move he makes, the easiest signing that they can make right now off the bat, is not going to be good enough. And then immediately, coupled off a playoff loss, everybody's going to be like, what is this team doing? Have we lost everything? And then we just go into panic mode all off season.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just let it play out. And then we could go doom and gloom at the trade deadline.
Yeah. If the first announcement of their first signing is, Lars Eller or, Jack Johnson's coming back for the league minimum.
Yeah.
People are not going to be happy. They're going to want that first announcement to be the bigger type of name to really kind of, calm people down a little bit. But it doesn't always happen that way. But, you do hear the big names first. So we'll just, it is a wait and see approach. And if the Avs have proven nothing, we always say they are patient.
That's right.
Just look at with Evan Rodriguez. He was one of the last free agents to sign.
Yeah.
And of the entire, not for the Avalanche, but for the entire free agency period. I think he did sign after Kadri signed, and Kadri held out for a long time.
I was about to say, the Kadri thing lasted 4.5 years. It felt like.
So that's where we are. So I just want him to have a good off season. More that he said, go figure, Kyle, more injuries, and the Avs aren't even playing.
What?
And somehow they got injuries. So we will talk about those here in a minute. But first, we're going to hear from Gametime and the Gametime app. And buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. And Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer deals and last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you are about to have. And what are some of the fun things that we like about the Gametime app experience? You have to love those flash deals on last-minute tickets. You can always load up the app and go to that flash deal section, and they got some really killer deals on last-minute tickets. So if you're holding out, if you're one of those people that hold out to the last minute, this is the app for you. They're easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Image of your seat view can't be beat. That's the best thing on that app, in my opinion. Lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, and even job loss protection. So you can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Once again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right. More with Chris MacFarland and his press conference following the Gabe Landeskog press conference. After all those questions came and went about Gabe, you got more into other things going on with the Avalanche. And someone did ask the question of, is there any updates on players that maybe are still injured following the offseason? And he just started listing them. And you have, and the interesting thing is one of them is Pavel Francouz, who came back, didn't play. I mean, what did he play? Once or twice? I think he only played once when he came back. So. Because we were talking about in those last few games, the meaning of those games, would he play in any of those? He ended up not playing any. I think he only played one game since his return from the previous injury, and now he's injured again. He had an operation. I think it was the adductor. I think that was wherever that is in your body. He had an operation on that. You had Josh Manson. Guy went through hell this season.
Yeah.
So he had another operation. Arturi Lehkonen, we all knew he broke his finger on that one shot that was taken by his own player. I think it was a Mikko Rantanen shot that redirected off his hand. Yeah. Ended up breaking his finger. We found out that he was playing in that Kraken series with a broken toe. Where he got that, we don't know. So he had a broken toe. He's healing. And Andrew Cogliano, obviously we all know what happened with the fractured neck, but he also had an AC strain, which is on the mend as well. Throw my hands up, Kyle. And then, Gabe Landeskog too, by the way. So we're already starting off. All those guys should be healthy, ready to go. This is a little bit of the benefit of being an early round exit. You can start healing earlier.
Boy, does this team need healing. And out of all of those injuries that you listed, the one that I'm concerned with and I'm going to watch like a hawk is Pavel Francouz. This is becoming the norm, and it's becoming a trend. And it's not like, and it's happening more like just out of the blue. Hey, Frankie's been scratched. He's out for a while, and it's always like day of game.
Right.
So it's something you have to watch. It comes up. I don't know what he does off ice, but he must walk to Ball Arena 2 miles both ways uphill in snow. Yeah. But it is a concern. It's a concern. Watch that. But everybody else, you feel good, especially with what MacFarland is saying. Yep. You feel like everybody's going to be healed, but watch Frankie.
Yep. And I feel pretty good with Manson. I think Manson just needs an off season. I think he was just looking forward to the off season and taking a few months just to rest up. Lehkonen, broken toe. Okay. That's, broken bone is 6 weeks or something like that. You'll be okay. Cogliano, that's a serious one. Aside from the AC strain, obviously your neck is broken. We'll see what happens with him in the offseason and reassess that. So that's where we stand with injuries. He was asked a ton about the Val Nichushkin situation and gave the same. Well, I shouldn't say he gave the same answer every time. He did say, I can't talk about that, which has been the Avs kind of go-to statement right now, which is not making a lot of people happy. And in the information age and social media age in which we live, people want information now and immediately. And even if it's not the right information, they want it. And the problem with that is, if the Avalanche are not going to come out and make some sort of official statement, then people are just going to assume the complete opposite and the worst. And that's kind of what's happening right now. Is you're hearing all of the worst case scenarios in this whole situation, which all we have to go on is these police reports and stuff that are out there. But we don't know how that affects Val Nichushkin specifically.
Yeah.
Yes, he was involved in something. We don't know specifically what that something is. And the Avs are choosing not to come out and say specifically what that is. And in this day and age, when you do that, people are just going to go make their own assumptions. And that's exactly what's happening right now. That's why we haven't been really talking about it, because we don't have all the information. We have some of the information, and we don't want to go out and make inferences and accuse people of things that we don't have 100% information on. If you want to go do that, please feel free. It's free country. You can go do that. But I'm waiting until we get official word from the Avalanche. Maybe we even hear from Val Nichushkin himself at some point in the future, and then maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more. But he did say, very interestingly, that we hope he is a part of our future.
Yeah.
That was very telling. I don't know if he meant to say that and meant to phrase it that way, but he said he's a big part of our franchise, and we hope that he will be, and I'm paraphrasing, for the foreseeable future. There was a very interesting way to phrase it.
Yeah, and that I'm glad you said that, because everybody who checks us out every day, all the everydayers that come here, this is a place for news and opinions. This is not a place for theories. We're not here to theorize what's going on, and we're not going to try and piece our own investigation together. That's not our job. It's not what we're here for. And if the Avalanche can't talk about it, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to theorize about it.
Yeah.
But we would like everyone to be involved. I want it to be a safe situation, and everything blows over and everything's going to be okay. But we're not going to sit here and speculate. You just hope that he is a part of the future, because he was a vital member of the team when he was apart. Let him deal with this, and we will deal with everything afterwards.
Yeah. But I will say that, and yeah, we're on the same page, obviously, with it. I am a little surprised that the Avalanche have not come out with an official statement on it. I am, like I said, in this day and age of social media and the information age, they know by not saying something that doesn't give them a good look. But in my opinion, there's got to be something there, for them to not want to release a statement,
or more is being uncovered.
Right, something kind of serious is going on, and when you do that and it involves an Avalanche player, people are going to assume that it's the Avalanche player who's at fault and is the reason for all this happening. That could be the case. We just don't know, so we will wait. And then if it turns out to be the case, then we'll be honest about it, and you'll get our thoughts on the whole situation. So that's kind of where we stand with that. All right. Anything else that he threw out there? That was really kind of like the big things that he was talking about: the injuries, the Val Nichushkin thing, and Gabe. In other Avalanche news, you did get that Jonas Johansson is returning to Sweden. So his time in the NHL right now is, and with the Colorado Avalanche, is done. And we were just talking about Pavel Francouz. Let's just say it's done for now. But Pavel Francouz could be on the trade block to free up a couple $1 million in cap space. This new injury for him doesn't help the narrative of he's always injured. Now you have Jonas Johansson, who is no longer with your team. The goalie situation, at least the backup goalie situation, just got a little bit more interesting for the Avs.
You have a Noonan in Loveland,
Mm-hmm.
and you have Keith Kincaid in the all-white pads and masks, baby.
Love it. Love it. That's what you got right now.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they did draft somebody. I can't remember his name. I apologize. In the 7th round last year. They only had like 2 picks in the draft last year, but in the 7th round, they got a prospect who is considered like the 2nd best goalie in the draft. I wish I could remember his name, and it's right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. But he's nowhere near ready. So you might have a goalie situation, a backup goalie situation on your hand next year, and I don't know.
Jonathan Bernier is on. He's a free agent. We're fine.
No,
we'll pick him up.
No. So that's kind of that was the long and short of the press conference with Chris MacFarland. Last thing we have to get to, and that is our grade for today, and that was for Andrew Cogliano. And if you are following us on any of our social medias, it could be Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, put the poll up on all of those. So you can vote on one of those outlets or all 3 if you wanted to. If you wanted to skew the voting a little bit, feel free. But we're going to throw it up on Twitter, or excuse me, on Twitter. You're going to throw it up on our YouTube video right now. If you're watching on that, if you're not and you're listening in your car or at home, this is real easy. Everybody gave Bs, flat Bs, no pluses or minuses. On YouTube, it was just over 50% there. It was I think it was like 50.7%, but there was A's and C's obviously for that. Twitter gave a 59% B, and Instagram gave 56% B. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy there between, Twitter at 50. Twitter was 9 points higher than YouTube and giving him a B. So it was a bit spread out more on the YouTube side of things. But you and I both in agreement, flat B's for Andrew Cogliano.
That's right.
Go for that? Go for it.
B's in the trap for Andrew Cogliano.
Yeah.
It was a great season. Former Iron Man. Consistency is key for the Avalanche last year. Cogliano was everything that you wanted in consistency. When he was out there, he didn't wow you, but he was there. He made an impact and he made a difference.
The thing that I always keep in the front of my mind when doing grades is like, what is this specific player's expectations?
Yeah.
Right. Did they, and if they exceeded it, you get a better grade. If you did perform poorly, obviously you get a lower grade, which will be very interesting when we get to the Alex Newhook thing, and kind of why I gave Bowen Byram a C+ in our first grade, because the expectation for him is a little bit higher. For Andrew Cogliano, he goes out and does his job, and he goes out and does his job every single night when someone's not, fracturing his neck.
Yeah.
So, you don't expect the world from him in scoring points, and you see his point total there, 19 on the season. And he's that type of guy that you just like to have on your team. Always gives you 100% effort. He's always out there. Iron Man type of guy. You like having those guys around.
And it feels like every one of those 19 points felt like a vital point. Every time he tallied a goal or an assist, it felt like it was a vital, like grit, grindy goal that he was a part of. And that's what you want. And you mentioned like grading on their potential. I do the same. I grade on potential, and compared to your peers, like I graded him along with his forward core, like because effort and consistency was the thing all year long with this team. You have to look at what you're doing amongst your peers. And Cogliano, 79 games played. Let's go. Give the man a gold star. Like, thank you for showing up to work, my friend.
Yeah. We'll see what happens next year with him. As his time just come, with that injury, we'll have to wait and see. And if it is it, like, it's just one of those guys that you'll feel his presence or his non-presence if he doesn't come back next year. One of those guys that you'll feel it, and not on the stat sheet or anything like that. He does those things that don't show up on the stat sheet.
Like a Belmar when he was gone.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Like, I think that's a pretty good comparison. They just go out there, they do their job. And you look at the average time on ice, 12 minutes and 37 seconds. And that's pretty good for a bottom six guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's just one of those guys that Jared Bednar, it's his kind of player, right? Like you just get that vibe that you bring him in and you're just comfortable putting him out there in any situation. And there were times with all these injuries that the Avs had this year that he had to go up to the second line.
Yeah.
There were times that happened. So, and you can do that with him. So
And it didn't feel out of place.
Not really. I mean, you don't feel like he's going to rip off a, natural hat trick or anything like that, but you know that it's going to be okay. Things are going to be okay while he's out there. So, yeah, flat B's across the board for Andrew Cogliano. And up next, and we won't get this till next week I'll put it up on Sunday probably for Monday's episode. JT Compher. JT Compher is up next. So that will be a good one. So that is going to, let me get rid of this here. There we go. Back to our names. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for today. And comment away down below on the captaincy thing and anything else that's going on that Chris MacFarland had to say. That'll wrap it up for today. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. Thank you for tuning into the Locked On Avalanche podcast and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Enjoy your Thursday, everybody. We'll check you later.